Good afternoon. I'm really thankful that this many people really want to hear about data analysis and how we're tracking our efficiencies. This is encouraging. So one of the, Sharon Owens, Deputy Mayor, City of Syracuse, thank you counselors for taking time to stay and be a part of this public presentation. One of the first things we decided as an administration through the guidance of Mayor Walsh was to use data to track, to set goals for ourselves and use that data to look at citywide objectives and specific key results, and to use that to make informed decisions about how we deploy services and analyze how well we're doing in that process. And so we set criteria and objectives in a few key areas so that we can begin to see how effective it is and how good we are at tracking ourselves and subsequently adjusting, which is more important, to the needs of the residents of the city. And so we use a traffic signal kind of approach, red, yellow, and green. Red and yellow, red meaning we're not meeting our objective. We do want to see that we're not meeting our objective. The goal is not to be in that position, but to make the adjustments necessary. Yellow means we're within a range of about 20% of our objective, and green means we've gotten to the objective. If we find ourselves stuck in the green too long, that's not good either. That means that we're lowballing our expectations for ourselves, and we need to move it on. So we have a presentation that is in multiple parts. The sections are fairly quick, so if we can get through them, if it's okay, counselors, and then we can backtrack for questions. So the first is in my wheel well, and that increased economic investment in neighborhood stability, and it comes along our mission and our vision for the city, the Syracuse to be a growing city that embraces diversity and creates opportunity for all. And so the two key result areas that I am ultimately responsible for are, first of all, issuing permits on time. So you see that we're in the yellow, meaning we're on our way. This is tracked on a weekly basis, because if we're a growing city, we should be having weekly changes in the number of permits that are being pulled with us, and our effectiveness in ensuring that we're meeting those established deadline times within those established time frames. They vary depending on the type of development, and they vary depending on the type of permit, but they all have their own criteria. Our goal is to get 95% of those building permits are issued within their established time frame. We're at 81%. That continues to climb. Very proud of the work done by our director of permits, Jake Deschal. He's been doing some amazing work in redeveloping our permit department, and some highlights are office organization. It's amazing that when you actually organize yourself a little bit better, it creates some efficiency. It's no surprise, but it's actually a surprise when you do it and it happens. Attention to due dates, really focusing and zeroing in on when due dates are, and then proactively engaging developers or those seeking permits to ensure that we're on a track to get them done. Part of that picture there was an internal contest we had with city employees for innovation, put together by our amazing I-team, and Jake won. It was an e-permit idea for apps that not the large development companies and development projects can use, but if I want to do renovations on my house, instead of having to track downtown and do it all in person, I can go through an app on my phone or on a computer. And to really create synergy between our codes department and our fire department. There are fire prevention and building codes set up by New York State, making sure that those two departments and the needs of those two departments are communicating efficiently so that we as a city are not creating undue hardship for developers. The second key result I'll be talking about is increased code compliance. So our goal is between 20 and 35%. We are thrilled and jumping up and down that we are finally at 20%. That ebbs and flows. In current compliance, we have some ways to go to get to 35%, and then 35% is not nearly enough compliance for us. But we're taking the steps necessary to at least get within that time frame. We're using our data to better analyze particular how staff are doing. We are finding out particularly that a particular address could have 30 code violations on it. So while we're seeing a percentage of 20, it could be a handful of properties driving that. And so we are ecstatically looking forward to the Bureau of Administrative Adjudication helping us with some of this compliance, because we believe that those tougher cases will move onto that other tool that we're looking to use and should influence these compliance numbers. So I will step aside, and next up is Christy Elliott.
Thank you, Sharon. So, Christy Elliott, Director of Administration. We're going to talk about achieving fiscal sustainability, recognizing we have a Finance Committee meeting tomorrow. I won't go too far down this path, but as you all know, one of the mayor's objectives is to be a growing, one of the objectives, so this is not a growing city that embraces diversity, that's our vision, but the objective is to achieve fiscal sustainability. And so if you want to go to the next slide. So we have two key results associated with that. The first is reduction in budget variance. Last year, we ended the budget about 11% over, and our goal is to reduce that 11% to 5%. At the end of the day, we talk often about our fiscal challenges. We are running a structural deficit. As the mayor would say, they are real, but they're not insurmountable. And one of the best things that we could do to get started in terms of really getting our arms around this problem and solving it is making sure that we can actively see, track, manage, and understand the spending that's happening across all levels of the city. So the dashboard gives us the opportunity to do that. We both use that data and analysis associated with the data in formulating this year's budget, but we also use it, again, in our weekly staff meetings, department head meetings, to make sure that we're taking a look at how spending is happening. One thing that we wanted to really focus in on is that, historically the city has sometimes underspent on projected budget, and so maybe an 11% change, you're going, oh well, we spent 11% less than we said that we would, and that could be perceived as a good thing. And of course it's always good to save money where we can save money, but at the end of the day, the focus really needs for us to be on being able to accurately predict what we are going to need and spend as a city, and getting closer and closer to doing that right. So one thing we say is, like, if we're 1% underspent versus 1% overspent, I'm okay with the positive or the negative either way. The point is that we're doing a good job of being accurate in terms of understanding what we need to function and operate as a city, and that we are spending accordingly to that. So we're at -9% right now. Pretty good. We're in the yellow on it. We hope to see, as the year continues, us getting closer and closer to that green. Thank you. The second one is addressing at least one audit finding.
-9% means you're underspending by 9% for the month?
Year to date, but through November.
Through November.
The second one is addressing at least one audit finding. The major thing that we are trying to achieve this year, and we talked actually a lot about this in budget hearings along the way, is centralization of our fiscal resources. So as everybody is well aware, we have fiscal resources who are across departments across the city, and one thing that's been called out to us relatively routinely in our audit findings is that when you have that dispersion of people handling money in different departments, that it increases your risk or the likelihood that maybe some of that money is not being counted accurately, or that there just aren't the same number of controls in place that would allow you to feel really comfortable that all due diligence has been done across to ensure that the money is being kept as accurately as possible. We have worked with the Tiger team this year, so it's a term that we're using for a small team of truly some of our best financial minds across the city who have been getting together to figure out, how do we centralize these processes? How do we get everybody operating from a single place as we move forward. And so what we've started with is about 5 to 7 of our city departments who are working in coordination with this Tiger team to centralize on the payment side. It's been wildly successful. We're paying more of our payments on time, which is a great thing to do. Fewer of our payments are being rejected centrally because they're missing some sort of key or pertinent information, which is a huge thing that drives a delay in payments for us as a city. As we move forward, we'll be looking this year to expand the payment side to additional departments, as well as looking at how we start to do that with revenue collection as well. We'll talk more about that at the Finance Committee meeting tomorrow as well. And I'm going to turn it over, I think, to Mr. Lowe.
Greg Lowe, Director of City Initiatives. The next objective, provide quality constituent engagement and response. This is has proven to be a tricky category for us to set up achievable measurement goals, because it's a broad range of people to reach across a broad range of services and interactions with the city. So as we've set up the measurement, the metrics for constituent engagement and response, we're looking at 2 primary ways to measure. We're looking at digital interaction, social media, as a tool that makes it fairly easy for us to track engagement. And second, how people directly interact with the city on CityLine when they request services from the city. So with that said, let me just tell you quickly. In the social media category, we're in green right now. We need to raise the bar and challenge ourselves higher in this category. The green is by increasing the number of engaged users, with the principal platform we're measuring right now being Facebook. It's the largest of the platforms we engage with in terms of amount of engagement. And so what we are planning on right now and working on setting the tools up is to add a new social media management tool that would let us look at other social platforms as well. More social platforms that people engage with us on, to let us in an automated way report to you on how we're doing with engagement with residents and actually all constituents. People engage with us from anywhere on Facebook. How we're doing with engagement with people in the online world. One of the ways clearly people reach out to us.
Does it, it's right here. Does it tell us after engagement what occurs? That somebody received the service that they asked for? Or?
No, that's the next stage, Counselor, that we'll look at is through CityLine, we can better manage whether people have received the service that they're looking for. So this is just interacting, getting information.
More people are becoming involved.
People commenting, people questioning. We invite that, right? We want to encourage people to ask questions, to challenge, hopefully say nice things, but we want engagement.
Can you rewind and say it again and come back an hour earlier and say that out loud earlier? We want to encourage people to ask questions, and I'm sorry.
Yes, sir.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, Counselor.
I'm sorry, you had mentioned a tool that you were going to be using to...
Social media management
tool. Is there any way to connect this social media management tool to CityLine?
That tool will not link to CityLine. That would be a different, more of an enterprise-wide customer relationship management system, and that is quite frankly, Counselor, probably our challenge there is a budgetary constraint to be able to implement such a broad-scale CRM program, as much as we'd like that. So linking the two is a challenge.
What frightens me about that a little, and it's probably nothing, but is we as counselors deal with this a lot, people putting stuff on social media and thinking that that's a service call of some kind, you know? And, you know, as we expand our presence as a city, as a municipality on social media, just making sure that people realize that that's not actually a service call, you know, in some way.
A couple of things. First of all, I'm not sure we made clear to you all at the start of this that one of the ways we use this data is on a weekly basis. The staff and city department heads review a different objective in detail. We actually reviewed this one this morning, and the very question you asked was raised by department heads about how it is that we can either directly link or drive people for service requests to City Line. We do that on the mayor's page now. We encourage people to take a request to City Line. We give them instructions on how to do it. But as you know, that's an extra step that people don't always want to take. So we will usually try to process the request on their behalf and educate them on moving to City Line.
Yeah, I have seen some in some of the social media a new thing that seems to be popping up when you put something in, it'll say, you know, do you want us to forward you to this, or, you know, certain
yeah, can we forward, right?
And I don't know if that's something we can link to our website. I suppose you technical people would know better, but I've seen it happen, you know, where
I will dig.
Type something and it sort of translates.
I will dig.
Picks up a word or something and sends you.
Yep.
If we could somehow move that to City Line, we may save ourselves some headache.
That's for sure. We do have a City Line Twitter feed, which we are going to increasingly use, which is one way that people can interact with us too. Yeah. Can we go to the next metric, key result? So this is increasing the use of City Line. So this is at 100% right now as well, because the first metric we set was trying to better triage calls that come to City Hall looking for general information and make it easier for people to directly get to where they want to go, which is typically a request on City Line. And so one of the steps we made to improve the experience for people to get to information faster is adding the automated response unit on the phone system. So every call isn't answered by an individual. You get an ability from a menu, which you may know this now, to select where you want to go. That allowed us to move people directly to City Line when they were looking for information. That was the first step. It's narrow. We need to widen now. And so we are in the process of building the City Line infrastructure. I think you'll be pleased to hear that in 2019, this measure will be based on, Counselor, to your question, completion of requests and satisfaction of experience. So we're going to be adding to the work process in City Line. When the work is completed, you will get an email from City Hall that tells you the work is completed. And when we send that, we will ask you to complete a brief survey to tell us what you thought. And so this will, I'd love to say it's going to be in green. We're going to set the metric here on satisfaction, so this goes to red. So that we have to get better.
Counselors anymore. Yes,
we will, Counselor. Yes, we will. So this is the next 2019 iteration of this will move to completion and satisfaction.
So just on that end, there will be a point in time when somebody actually picks up the phone and speaks with somebody, because I think that everybody wants to have a voice.
You can interact live with City Line now, as you know, by phone.
Right.
In a situation where there's an online request, we do not envision that a personal phone call would come as a follow-up. The email and survey would substitute for that, as it does today. Team, catch me on that. Am I correct? Yes. So, Counselor, we do not attempt to call each individual who makes a request on City Line. I think that the workflow on that would be burdensome for us. You don't like the answer, but it is where we're at today.
I just think that, I mean, it's and I can only, I put this, putting my hat on from years ago with the police department. People want to have somebody call them and just say, okay, we've done this, or somebody come and knock on their door and say, you know, we looked for your property and we haven't been able to find anything. Do you have anything else you want to tell us? So when the survey goes out, I mean, it's just, the results are done. A follow-up, maybe even if you would like to call and let us know, or just somebody calling to say, we've sent you a survey, please fill it out, you know.
Maybe interesting to include at the bottom of the survey who their representative is on the council, their district representative, and their contact information.
Or possibly sending those, sending those to the counselors at the same time, so the counselor can then reach out to them and ask them, were you satisfied with the service and
it's job security. They're outsourcing us. We're going to be.
I think that's an excellent idea. And to your point about, I'm thinking about maybe some phone calling to a representative samplings too, so we can check in with people.
See if it's worthwhile.
Yeah. Which is a good idea. I'm going to turn it over to Sam.
Good afternoon, councilors. I'm Sam Edelstein, City's Chief Data Officer. I'm standing in for Corey Driscoll-Dunham, who's the Director of Operations, because she just had a baby, so we have the stork up there to represent. I'm going to talk about delivery of city services. Obviously, that's a key piece of what we do. And so we have two different key results that we look at. The first one is focused on establishing resolution times, really. So saying we'll fill potholes within 5 days. That's traditionally not something that we've done. So even setting those goals has been a challenge and a big discussion that we've had with all the different departments about what is an appropriate time frame to start with, and then how do we improve. And so right now we're at 76%, which is good. There's always plenty of room for improvement. A couple of things just to call out on this. When we started looking at these numbers about 6 months ago, we were filling potholes within 5 days about 57% of the time. We're now at 65% of the time. So still not at 95 where we want to be, but better. We were responding to trash and debris calls from our codes department about 80% of the time. We're now at 88% of the time. So we've seen improvement, obviously always room to improve even more. That's part of the reason why it's yellow and why we're looking to find new ways to approach different challenges in new and creative ways, but we see improvement in certain areas here, which is great. And I think also just being able to tell people, when you complain about a pothole, our goal is to get there within 5 days is also just something that we haven't done before. The next key result that we're focusing on, so great that we can go and fill potholes, not so great if we're filling the same pothole over and over and over again, even if we're doing it within 5 days. So along with delivering the service within a certain amount of time, we also want to limit the number of times that we're revisiting and redoing the same work over and over again. So this, there are a variety of different things that we look at here, including are we refilling the same pothole? We're also looking at, are the same water mains breaking over and over again? And then again, are we responding to the same kind of code complaints, things like trash and debris or overgrowth over and over? Sewer backups is one that we've also targeted in on. We were revisiting the same properties a lot to resolve sewer backup issues. So this was kind of a cool story working between departments. So one of the goals of having these meetings during department head meetings is that we have all the different department heads sitting around a table, and so we don't have the same silos that might traditionally occur in work. And so we talked about sewer backups as being an issue and DPW needing to go and respond to these same houses over and over again. Stephanie Pasquale from Neighborhood Business Development said, there are opportunities to help residents resolve these issues and funding that's potentially available that we generally don't use. So we should hand out some kind of pamphlet that tells people that they can do this. So we did that, and again, since we started tracking these sewer backup calls, we're improved by 19%. So essentially revisiting properties 19% less of the time. So that's good. It means that we can spread our staff to more issues and resolve problems the first time that we go. Another cool thing that we're doing to resolve pothole issues, we have a new type of asphalt that we call magic asphalt. Apparently it's actually called high performance cold mix, but we like magic better. And so that's supposed to be able to work more permanently even in the winter time. So right now when we fill potholes, or previous to the magic asphalt, when we fill potholes, when plows would go over that asphalt, it would just rip out the cold mix that we put in. This asphalt is supposed to help and be more permanent, so we're testing that to see if it actually does work, and then we would plan to roll it out more to do more permanent fixes year round. So that's that. And then just the last thing that I'll talk about is plans for expansion. So we tried this starting a few months ago, and we think it's gone really well. And so what we'll look to do in the new year is just expand. So that's more metrics, more challenging things. So as Greg pointed out, we're doing well in a lot of places, and so we just need to challenge ourselves more. We'll focus on equity. So it's not just that we're filling potholes within a certain amount of time, but we're filling potholes within a certain amount of time citywide, so that we don't hear that certain parts of the city are saying, you never come to our part of the city. That may be true, it may not be true. We want to be able to have the data behind it to really resolve that. And then we'll also look at right-of-way permits, things like freedom of information requests, setting a time frame and confirming that we're doing that in a reasonable amount of time, as well as procurement, among other things. So we look to expand that and keep the information publicly available and continue to update you as well.
Can I go first because I have to leave? I'm sorry, but I understand a dashboard and the value and the limit, and I guess I would say I don't need answers to all of this right now because I'm going to leave. I'm going to ask my question, and then I don't probably not be able to say for the answer. But who's the audience for the dashboard? Is it Joe Citizen, or is it the council, or is it just an internal management tool? Because I would say I could just say there's 6 yellows and 3 greens, and you could give me 6 pieces of yellow paper and 3 pieces of green paper, and that feels about as much information as in here, because I kind of have like question on question about how it's set up, what goes into it, what the time period reset is. Like, it's not. And the drill down feature on the web has a little bit more information, but still not. For instance, the 9 out of 13 audit recommendations doesn't list the 9 or the 13. It doesn't describe any of the steps. It just shows some visual thing. Like, I could see it being valuable for the managers to have this, to point to employees and say, here are the things, and I can imagine there's more things that are more specific. So those things, even the potholes, like there's no how many potholes, right? Like that number is not there, not even in the drill down. Sure. So like if I don't understand the volume, I don't understand the metric by which a complaint comes in. Is it all city line data? I write a letter and it gets filled really quick when I write a letter. But, you know, so like what are the steps and what doesn't work and what are we actually encouraging people to do for that?
So these are all really good questions. I think what we have tried to do here is understand that we don't know exactly what works best for everybody. So we've tried to build with people and sort of with the understanding that we aren't going to have it perfect right up front and get feedback from folks. So having that specific feedback as well as, you know, feedback from the public or internally has helped. I think as you drill down, you certainly can get more information, but one of the benefits of being able to pull data and also make it publicly available is that we can always add more things here. So we're always open to recommendations on this. And I think to answer your question about who is it for, our hope is that it would be for everyone. Part of the reason why we made it public, and then we're also using it in our department head very internal meetings, and then also presenting here to you, is we want to make sure that whatever we're talking about on a weekly basis, we're allowing everybody else to see, so that there's no, you know, we're being completely open and accountable and transparent, which all feed back to the mayor's values and mission. And so open to changing things. I think we've built this thing in-house, so we can make changes as they're recommended. But I think we also want to make sure that it is understandable in a way that makes sense to me, as well as someone who you know, takes a look at it every once a month or once a year.
Did you guys share the link before the meeting? Did I just overlook it and not look through? Or was this like a
it's
reveal?
dashboards.syrgov.net.
I'll look in more detail, but I kind of like. Oh, there's a presentation.
We probably didn't. Sorry.
Okay, because I feel like I could have, like, if you're looking for feedback, I think it becomes more thoughtful.
Email that we sent with a
Yes,
reminder of the meeting.
yes,
Okay.
which is what I'm
Well,
using.
next time, you know. Thank you. Overall, I think it's good to start, and you guys seem to be open to change all the time, and that's good. Don't keep it the same. So, thank you.
Thanks, Counselor.
Too many? No?
Thank you. Thank you for your time. And as we just said, we're open for feedback, anything you see. If you see any glitches when you go in there, please let us know.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Can we do that?
Yeah.
Questions from the audience?
So that, just so you know, the potholes was there. It is there. It tells you how many potholes, and it tells you how many was corrected. Just got to know which thing to click on.
Anybody else? The man in the stunning cap. Yes. Please.
So I guess my question, we've had some discussion about this before, but in terms of the engagement, that still is pretty much driven by requests for services rather than other forms of engagement. And so I think that, just moving forward, recognizing that we have many goals around engagement that go beyond somebody asking for a service to be delivered. And so that's something that as soon as possible, if we could get into something like that.
All good? Anyone else? Go.
My question is, who is in charge of the Citizen Review Board website? Okay.
It needs some updating.
Yes.
Redevelopment of the central website and all auxiliary websites is a 2019 project, and those capable hands right there.
Exciting times to be alive.
Sweet. Thank you.
All good? Anybody else? Thank you.
All good.
Rock and or